Okay, so I've got the last 9 and 10th question, and I'm going to run through again what the questions were, the 10 things that we want to talk about in the 50-minute video. How to squat with your legs, because a lot of people nowadays, they don't really squat with their legs. There's a lot of shifting of the weight towards the posterior, and not in the sort of direction that I would recommend for weightlifting. Um, and then we talk about how to squat if you have some sort of IT band pain or some sort of tendonitis in the knee or hip pain or any sorts of pain. Basically, I used to have like a lot of pain. Being genetically ungifted. What is that? Oh, it's my pair of jeans. Being genetically ungifted, not talented in the sport, nothing like that. There's a lot of pain that you have to go through, and then when you read online, you kind of want to apply it, and then you apply it, and it's like, this don't work, but then you just like saying, let me trudge on, and when you trudge on, it just gets worse and worse and worse. Okay, so I've been lifting for about 12 years now. So to 12 years, you kind of learn a bunch of things that don't work and work. I'm going to share that. Okay, so I'm going to teach you guys what I did in order for me to get better in my squats without hurting my knees and my hips. And I've helped quite a number of people. Usually what I believe in, if you have a sample size of 100 people, and out of that you have 95%, this is from the days of my research days, if you have a 95% success rate, then you can assume that that will be generally quite applicable to most people. So I use that theory, and then we're gonna talk about the variables, the things that you must consider in order to gauge the right to squat deep. When you talk about squatting deep, you don't want to just squat deep for the sake of squatting deep. You want to have the proper mechanics, proper loading of the weight. You want to have like proper movement patterns. You want to have proper joint mobility. See, I said mobility, not flexibility this time. You want to have all these sort of elements all together before you actually want to squat deep. So what are the variables? What are the checklists that I have to allow somebody to squat deeper? Okay. Then next thing we talk about how to manipulate hamstring activation to make up for the lack of ankle flexibility. This is not really manipulating, rather it's more like activating, and how the hamstrings is very important in keeping posture when you squat in the descent. It's also very important to get you standing up straight without using your back to lift instead, or your hips to lift, stuff like that, using the legs to lift. Differences between a 6'3", 6'1", 5'10", 5'9" squatter, and of course I'm 5'9" and half. My cousin's like 6'3". So you're gonna see the differences in the heights and how we tweak the squats. Like one of my cousins has very tight ankles. You'll see how we tweak the squats for him as compared to his elder brother who has better ankle mobility and skin mobility. And you'll see how we tweak it around to make sure that it works for each individual. And we talk about how do we use the pulls, abdominal activation, posterior activation to balance out uneven hips during the squats. This is basically something that I've picked up recently, very recently in fact, and I found that it's worked. However, some reports from Denmark says that it doesn't really work completely, so we're still tweaking through it. We're still trying to figure it out. I'm not so sure if I want to include that. I probably will, but you gotta be smart when you listen to me talk about it. Okay, and we talk about how to deactivate the torso stiffness and shift all the loads to the legs, because a lot of people tend to use the posterior to lift, and when they get excited they go deeper and they're like, oh my god, I can't get up, and then they start using air. They start to compensate. When you lift, you don't want to compensate, you want to correct. If there's a mistake, you just correct, don't compensate. And we'll talk about how this is actually done, and we talk about how calming down got this CrossFitter, a friend of mine in CrossFit Aalborg, to get a 5 kilogram PR. His brother had knee pain too, and he squatted up to about, he's 180, and he squatted up to about 110 without any knee pain, and he was surprised. And so we'll talk about how that actually worked. And of course, I'm flat-footed, so I've got my friend. His name is Kendrick Kwan. He's currently in Australia trying to get his mentorship with some gym, and he's done some research for me to explain on how to actually squat with flat feet without hurting your adductors, groins, knees, and stuff like that. And there is one more question which I Yeah, I can't remember which one was it. I did write it down. So these are the 10 questions that I'm going to re-record some bits and pieces and edit them, and I should be able to get the video up by Monday. So that would be a Sunday for you guys in the western side of the world, and it's going to be on Monday for the rest of us in this side of the world. Cheers, guys. Good night.